Katherine Chancellor is dead. Hi everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, August 23rd, 2013 is the day that I am recording this. As I mentioned last week, I'm going on vacation on Sunday, so I'm trying to just squeeze in an audio chat because this week has been so incredible. As the week started off, Murphy comes into the mansion where all of Katherine's closest friends, arguably, are gathered and waiting to hear back from her as she's returned from her vacation. But Murphy arrives at the house alone, and he begins to tell everyone at the mansion all about this incredible trip that he had with his wife. Katherine did all of these amazing things. She saw the world. She experienced life. She had the trip of a lifetime. It sounded so wonderful, like the end, like an end trip. And as he's describing all of these things that Katherine had done, I got the feeling that everyone in the room knew what was going on. Why else would Murphy be there without Katherine? But everyone in the room seemed to have a level of denial. It was really only Jill who we saw the focus thrust on as she's realizing that something isn't right here. She knew in her heart of hearts that Katherine was gone. And she tried to question Murphy, but Murphy had obviously been sent there on a mission. He was keeping it together. He knew what he had to do, and it was to unfortunately deliver the news that after this journey that Katherine had been on through the world, she went back to her hotel room one night and she died in her sleep. If only we could all be so lucky, right? This is really the ideal death, as morbid as that sounds, I think. What a wonderful way to go. Although I must admit, and I know that you all felt the same way, hearing those words come out of Murphy's mouth just broke me. It was like months of anticipation over wondering how it would happen, knowing that the actress Jean Cooper had died. All of these months of anticipation wondering how Y&R would handle the death of Katherine Chancellor came to a head in one single moment as the words left Murphy's mouth that she had died in her sleep. And I think a wave of sadness came over the crowd, and it was followed quite quickly by a wave of resentment that washed over Jill as Murphy revealed that Katherine actually knew that she was dying in April, back when she had the brain tumor. She just chose not to tell everyone. And this feels consistent. Katherine didn't want everyone to be hovering over her, making a fuss. She wanted to go out with a bang. She wanted to go live her last few months the way she wanted to. But Jill immediately begins to talk about how selfish this is of Katherine. How could you do this to me? Jill says. And I understand the reaction. I think that, feeling anger is a natural part of the grieving process. And Jill feels that she never got a chance to say goodbye. And that's, again, it is a very natural reaction. Where it's characteristically Jill is that Jill assumes she's the only one who is having this feeling. Everyone, I think, on some level felt upset. It was like a 1-2 punch. Not only is Katherine gone, but nobody got a real chance to say goodbye. And then Murphy brings out a letter that Katherine has written, and he asks, actually I believe it was Katherine that had requested that Nikki read it to the group. And it sounded like Katherine. It was essentially saying, I know how you all must be feeling. I know this is difficult for you, and I'm sorry. She got in this wonderful dig to Jill by saying, I'm sure that Jill is managing to make this all about her, and it was so perfectly timed and really captured what I was feeling in that moment. But the overall essence of the letter was, I want a celebration of my life. I don't want mourning. I want everyone to remember me with love. When you think about Katherine, don't think about my death. Think about the way that I lived my life. And so she, kind of mentions that she would like for there to be a party in her honor, some type of event to celebrate her. But the real haunting last line of the letter, or was it toward the end of the letter, was she mentioned, I may not be there, but I will be watching from another room. I think that that kind of says something, she's, and just in the sense of the show, as far as, Katherine is no longer a part of the show, but maybe she's watching from a distant room. And I found that to be very, very touching. Katherine is someone who is very, very full of life, very full of love and positivity, and I think that the final letter to the group really reflected that. I think so far the way that the memorial has been handled by Y&R does reflect that. Everyone kind of gathers together after this letter is finished being read by Nikki, and they all separately have a memory. Everyone who was in the room had a little memory of their time with her, and then they all toasted to Katherine, and it was so wonderful. I especially loved, I loved all the flashback scenes, but I especially loved Jill kind of play choking Katherine and then hugging her. That was just very, again, representative of their relationship, and it's what I needed to see. After that show, I guess that was the end of Monday's show, I want to say, or maybe Tuesday, but after that scene took place, I really thought about it after I had gotten done watching the show, and I thought, everyone at that mansion that night had a different reaction to this news. Some wanting to fall apart. I felt Nikki represented that. She seemed like she just wanted to cry and fall apart. Some of the people there, like Victor, remained very strong, very almost stoic. There were some people that were angry, like Jill. And to me, I thought, well, that is a wonderful way to represent probably what many of the fan reactions are. I think there are some fans who are maybe waiting for the show to fall apart now that Katherine is gone. Maybe there are some people who are just staying strong and trying to muster through. And then there are, I'm sure, fans who are angry about everything. And I just thought it worked. It worked. All of the various reactions of the people in the room seemed to reflect, to me, maybe some of the reactions in the fan community. The news started to hit Genoa City. People, one by one, found out. Jill goes to tell Jack and tells him she's gone. And just hearing that phrase, she's gone, is totally unbelievable to me. It's so hard, even though we've known this for months, it's so hard to imagine that she's not just going to walk onto the screen at any moment. She's such a huge part of the show and of Genoa City. I really did enjoy seeing seeing Jack comfort Jill. Jill finally broke down with him and said, she's upset because she didn't get a chance to tell Katherine how she felt. This is a woman who she thought was her mother for a period of time, and which, by the way, in my heart of hearts, I just feel like Jill was Katherine's daughter. I don't know why. I never agreed with the twist that made Jill not Katherine's daughter and made it Tucker instead. That it felt right to me that they were mother and daughter, and I'm gonna be a stubborn fan and just not accept it. But Jill feels like she didn't get a chance to say all the things she wanted to say, and there is a lesson in there for you and I. That's why you don't leave things unsaid. If you have something that you've never said, you need to say it, because you don't know when the end is going to be. You don't know when you're not going to have another chance. I try not to leave things unsaid in my life. I feel like everybody who I care about knows exactly how I feel about them. And I just think there's a really good lesson in there for all of us. But Jill is very bitter, and it was good to see her open up about that a little bit, and Jill's reaction is going to be very key within the next few weeks. I think it's going to be Jill's bitterness that fuels quite a bit of upcoming storyline, and perhaps some contesting the will and debate over who gets what. I also have to mention that I did enjoy seeing Lauren comfort seeing Lauren comfort her sister as well. Lauren brought a really interesting point to Jill when she said, I think that maybe as strong of a woman as Katherine was, the one thing she was afraid of was saying goodbye. And maybe that's why she chose to do things the way she did them. And I loved that take on it, because it allows Katherine to be the larger-than-life character that we all know that she is, but it leaves her with that one weakness. Just a little bit of a dent there, toward the end. Just, maybe she wasn't strong enough to say goodbye to everyone. And we've had so much time to consider how all of the characters who are left are feeling, but I almost am enjoying indulging just a little bit in what Katherine's feelings must have been to know that she was dying, and to know that there are so many people who love and care about her, but to not feel that she had the strength to say goodbye. I thought that was a very interesting point. And I'm very happy with how Y&R has there's an air of mystery around this that I mentioned last week, and I just really am enjoying, because after Lauren had left Jill is sitting in the mansion at the desk, I believe it was, just reflecting, and all of a sudden a book falls off the shelf and onto the floor, and I am totally into it. Like, as soon as that book fell off the shelf, I was like, oh my gosh, that was Katherine's ghost. It was Katherine's ghost, you guys. I was in that moment, like, she is still there, just watching from another room. I'm such a sucker. There was a lovely obituary that went into the newspaper, and Jack read it to everyone. I should, if I had more time this week, darn it, I would have got a transcript and posted that obituary. Maybe I still will here soon, but it was very, very moving. I mean, I managed to make it through most of Wednesday's show without tears, even with the obituary, and then Nikki breaks down. She goes to see Jack, and she just, Nikki, that was her best friend, and I can't help thinking how difficult this is for her. And she goes to see Jack, and then she comes home, and Victor finds out that that's where she was, and she and Victor get into an argument. And what follows is a scene where Nikki finally is able to break down to Victor. And I thought, by the way, Eric Braeden and Melody Thomas Scott were incredible in that scene. Nikki reveals, she feels cheated too. She feels like she didn't have a chance to say goodbye. And Victor, in his classic Victor reaction, he just is stoic. And she begs him, Nikki begs him to just show some emotion. Show us that you feel like you lost your best friend too. And he's not that same person. He just pulls her in and he hugs her, and that's that. And I thought that was a very moving scene. It really showed where both characters are in their process. Then it was revealed that not only did Katherine send a public letter to everyone who was gathered at the mansion, she also wrote individual letters to people. And Victor got a letter. He revealed that, actually, first I believe the first kind of hint of the letter that we saw was Nikki receiving a letter. But she was very secretive about it. She was looking at a letter, sitting at the ranch, and then Victor walks in and she kind of puts it away. She doesn't want to, she doesn't want to show what it is. Victor says, I know what it is. I got a letter too. He reveals that his letter from Katherine was reminding him how she was largely responsible for bringing him to Genoa City in the first place, which seemed just very Katherine-esque. So, other letters. Esther gets a letter. I don't know why, you guys, but I am feeling super sensitive towards Esther this week, especially since she normally irritates me. But right now, I felt bad for her. She gets her letter from Mrs. C, and I thought it was kind of rude that Katherine is talking, basically saying that she's a bad housekeeper. Well, geez, couldn't you have softened that one, Katherine? Of course, that wouldn't be very Katherine-like, would it? But she did say, you weren't just a maid, you were a friend, you were my family, and that was nice, because, whatever I think about Esther, she's been with her for a long time, and Esther deserves to have her due. Now, Jill had this great letter. And again, keeping with the mystery vibe, Jill opens up her letter, and what it says is, I want you, Jill, to have everything that I value. You just have to look in the right place to find it. It's right in front of you, but you just have to look in the right place to find it. And Jill immediately assumes that this means, Katherine, you left me your entire fortune? I don't deserve that. Well, maybe I do. I want you to have everything that I value, says Katherine. And I think we all know that's not money, and it's not property, and Jill will be very disappointed. So Nikki comes over to discuss the memorial service, and Jill would just be ruined by the money anyway. If Jill got money and Chancellor and the estate and everything, she would be a horrible person. I mean, she already is. Jill's already kind of walking around the mansion like she's the lady of the manor. And it really, really ticked me off because as, Nikki comes over to discuss the memorial service for Katherine, the party, and as much as I rag on Esther, I did not appreciate the way they were treating her, especially Jill. But Nikki could have been nicer. Nikki wasn't mean, but she could have been nicer. Esther, this is so weird that this is what I'm focusing in on, but Esther lost her longtime companion. She lived with Katherine for years. That's got to be a major difficulty in her life. I wouldn't be surprised if Esther inherited everything. That would be about right. But, ultimately, Esther deserves some damn consideration, and I felt like both Nikki and Jill tried to blow her off. She wanted to be helpful, and she's tripping over Jill, being like, is there anything I can help you with? Being super nice, and Jill, she don't care about the memorial service. Nikki's pretty much on top of that. Jill cares about Where is the fortune? Jill basically thinks she's on a freaking treasure hunt. She's going through the mansion, trying to crack the safe, trying to figure out where Katherine would hide this grand, I don't know what she thinks it is. I have no idea what she actually thinks she's looking for, but some kind of mystery, and she wants to find it. But again, we know that Jill is going to be disappointed. And at toward the end of, I believe it was Friday's show, Nikki is back at the ranch, and she's looking at her letter, and she's crying. And she is saying, Katherine, why would you do this to me? And so we're left as the audience wondering, what was in Nikki's letter? We know what was in everybody else's. What was in Nikki's letter? And I think this is just my theory. I have no further information. I've had no time to do any research on Y&R, anything additional on Y&R lately. I have barely even had a chance to talk about it with you guys. But my theory, I think Katherine left Chancellor Industries to Nikki. Katherine was barely cold in the ground before Adam goes to Victor and suggests a hostile takeover of Chancellor. Wow! And the apple doesn't fall very far from that tree. Even Victor was like, wow, that's mean. And that's why I think Nikki's going to be the inheritor. Again, just a theory, but I think that Nikki realizes that on some level, having inherited a Chancellor will put her at odds with Victor. But if this is true, if this is where it's headed, I could be completely wrong, but I think it would be delicious in that it would give Nikki a purpose. It would give her something to do. It would give her, it would put a woman again at the head of Chancellor. It would put her really, really at odds with both Jill and Kane. I love Nikki versus Jill. I think that is going to be one of the really key and juicy parts of the aftermath of Katherine's death. And especially if Adam were to, on Newman Enterprises' behalf, go ahead and try to forge this takeover of Chancellor, I think it would be great if Nikki one-upped him. If she was just like, oh no, I don't think so. I think that could be really good. Now, this week had a little bit of activity there with Chelsea and Dylan and the baby. Adam shows up at Chelsea and Dylan's warehouse house, and he sees his son for the first time. And he comes inside, and the kid's fussy, and Adam just picks him right up. And it was just Adam looked so adorable looking into his son's eyes for the first time. And Chelsea was in the background looking. And to me, there was this look on her face. She didn't tell Adam not to do it, and she didn't look particularly worried to me. To me, it was almost like she wanted it. Like that was really what she wanted. She wanted Adam to have his son. Now, Dylan walks in and gets super protective, does not want to see Adam holding his quote-unquote son. But Adam's very, polite. He just sort of backs off, gives the baby back, and asks Chelsea if she will be able to testify on his behalf in this whole rape mess, which Dylan doesn't want her to. And Chelsea goes on to say, I really can't testify on your behalf. Yeah, Chelsea, this is her excuse. She can't testify on Adam's behalf because, she would have to be honest and say that, no, I know that Adam would never rape a woman, but if she's honest about that, then she'd have to be honest about other questions that might come up about his character. Yeah, because Chelsea is known for her honesty. Sure, Chelsea can't do it because she might have to lie. Whatever, girl. Whatever. This lie is going to come out. There was a brief little scare with Connor is the baby's name. Brief little scare where they thought he was coughing and they thought, oh no, he must have some kind of respiratory disease. So they rushed him to the hospital and it turns out to be nothing. But in my head, I keep thinking, how long? How long until something's wrong with the kid? It's blind or it needs some kind of tissue donating and a blood test. I mean, at some point along the way, they're gonna the kid's gonna need something and they're gonna have to do a tissue or a blood or something sample, and they're going to find out that Dylan's not a match. But I, again, submit to you that Dylan knows that he's not the father and does not care, or is just as much wanting the lie as Chelsea is. And there was this telling little moment this week where Dylan's just kind of acting shifty. He's having a moment alone with the child, and he's telling the baby, I want you to be a better man than me. And Chelsea catches him and she's kind of like, well, what did that mean? And I don't know what he said. He made something up. But I really think he knows that he did something wrong. I think he knows that he's taking another man's baby away from him. And he feels guilty about it, but not guilty enough. Avery gets home from visiting Phyllis in Georgia, and she busts up in on Sharon's happy, sleepy moment with Nick and Faith. Avery knows exactly what's going on. There was this wonderful, dagger stare between the two women. They both know exactly what the score is. Avery takes her man home, and Sharon is left alone, and Noah stops by, and Faith tells Noah that Mommy and Daddy were just sleeping together, which I think triggered Noah's suspicion. Hey, by the way, this is because I know I'm not going to touch on this elsewhere. I love that Noah is going to be working for Jabot, or working anywhere but the bar. Tyler had gone to Devon and accepted the offer to work at Jabot, and as a condition asked that Noah be brought on as a photographer. And by the way, I loved in his argument to Devon in favor of this, Tyler brought up about how, your Uncle Malcolm got a break in photography, so why can't we give Noah a break? And I thought, ooh, that was a good callback. I liked that a whole lot. And by the way, I don't think I'll talk about this anywhere else either, but I think Devon is going to end up playing a key role too in what happens in the aftermath of Katherine, but we'll just have to see about that. For now, I'm glad Noah has a job, and I think Noah is really starting to become suspicious of Sharon. He finds this picture that Sharon has kept of Nick, and he realizes that Sharon's still pining for him. And there's also Sharon realizes that Nick left his jacket at her house, and Noah's like, oh, I'll go take it back to him, no big deal. And Sharon practically trips over herself to say, oh, no, don't worry, I'll take that back to Nick. He can't wait. So Sharon goes over to Nick's house to return his jacket right in the middle of Avery and Nick having candlelit couch sex. Oopsie! I mean, she barely beats down the door. They have to open it up, and she just stands there like she's very happy to interrupt them. Nick leaves the room for one reason or another, and Sharon really subtly makes her intentions clear as soon as she and Avery have a moment alone. Pretty much, Sharon's like, Nick and I share kids, so don't even think I'm gonna go away. Avery realizes fully that Sharon is out to get Nick back. So Avery decides she wants to solidify her place in Nick's life, and as soon as Sharon leaves, she tells him that she wants to move up the wedding date. She wants to get married as soon as possible. Now, back at at Sharon's house, Noah finds that ticket that Sharon got, that automatic ticket, and he notices the day that's on the ticket. It was the day of the benefit, and he questions her, like, why were you even in this area on the day of the benefit? I didn't realize that was what the connection was going to be, but it's evidence that I'm sure Noah's going to put together sooner or later, that puts her right at the scene of everything that happened with Phyllis. He's definitely putting it together. Now, Avery, I think, is on to Sharon as well. Like, Sharon's walls are closing in. Nick and Avery have set a wedding date, and it's like in a week. Nick calls Noah while Noah's still with Sharon, asking him, I think, to come to the wedding or be his best man or whatever. And Sharon practically burst a vein in her forehead when she heard that Nick was getting married. She just learns the information, then kind of gives this look that says, not if I have anything to say about it. She is not about to let that happen. And her strategy seems to be just like being super friendly with Avery and just really so nice. And really, Sharon doesn't have to do that much because now Faith is pretty much Sharon's little soldier. Faith has turned in to this demon child. It's kind of fabulous. I love it. I don't know about you guys, but Faith is giving me like a Firestarter vibe. Give this kid a book of matches and let's just see what happens. She is being like really mean. And she's just mean to Avery. She obviously wants her mom and dad to get back together. In fact, she mentioned something about it, and Nick had to go and confront Sharon. Like, where is Faith getting this idea that we're going to be back together soon? And Sharon plays it off. Oh, no. I mean, I don't know where she would have gotten that idea, Nick. It certainly wasn't for me. I'm perfectly sane. But Faith has her own mind. She's been influenced by her mother. And there was actually a sad moment where Avery is trying to get Faith involved in the wedding planning, hoping to warm her up. And so Avery brings all these photos to Faith, just kind of inspirational photos. And as soon as Avery turns her back, Faith tears up the pictures. And then Nick gets home and Faith runs to her daddy and says, Avery was mean to me. Oh, this kid's good. She's real good. And Sharon, it still makes Sharon look so bad because it's almost like Sharon's using Faith to get back with Nick, and that's very, very wrong. Sharon is having these conversations still with Cassie, trying to decide what she's going to do to get Nick back. I like the conversations with Cassie because I like to imagine, every time she's doing it, I like to imagine the reality of the situation, which is that Sharon's actually just talking out loud to herself. And that makes me laugh a little. Now, Avery, after this whole ripped up the picture, obviously trying to sabotage her relationship with Nick, Avery smells a rat and she goes to see Sharon immediately. And I can't help but feel bad for Avery because she's really getting the raw deal here. It's really not fair. Avery just wants to have a relationship with Nick. She's gone through a lot lately, and now Sharon is just sabotaging her left and right. I mean, she's trying to ruin her relationship, and just wait till she finds out that Sharon put her sister in a coma. I just have to briefly mention, Victor vows in the wake of Katherine's death to turn a new leaf. He's going to be a new and improved man. Ha! How many times have we heard that one before? He's going to bring the family together. Please. That's a good one, Victor. What else you got? But of course, this new and improved Victor does not extend to Billy. He's having a conversation with Victoria, and Victoria still has to defend Billy like he's her boyfriend or something. And she's 16 years old. We're in love, Dad, and you can't stop us. Ugh. And Victor doesn't like to hear that. He says he's going to stop them somehow. When will Victor figure out that his disapproval only makes Victoria want Billy more? I mean, I think Victoria was just barely on the road to forgiving Billy last week, and now this week, now that Victor's against them, they're back to baby making. Carmine is back. He sends flowers to Lauren. Of course, he can't stay away for long. And Lauren and Michael take the flowers to Paul at the police station and ask Paul, like, what are you guys doing about finding this man who kidnapped and held hostage Lauren? Now, Alex comes in right at about this time, and he finds out a hint, some kind of lead on where Carmine might be. And rather than telling this to Paul in private, Alex kind of mentions it while Lauren and Michael are in the room. Michael hears this information, that there's even a possibility of knowing where Carmine is, and Michael goes charging out of Paul's office. Paul, trying to be a good friend, like kind of grabs him and to stop him from making another huge mistake. And Michael just turns around, hauls off, and punches Paul. What the hell? Michael is out of control, y'all. He really is. How could he hit Paul after everything that Paul has done for him? And that's just this month. He got both Michael and his son out of jail time. How could Michael do that to him? Michael is super unpredictable now. I don't even know what to expect from him. Now, all of that was overshadowed. Actually, Michael got handcuffed to a chair for punching the chief of police. Under any other circumstance, he would have been in a jail cell. The entire time he was in jail, quote unquote, anyway, he was pretty much just hanging out in Paul's office. He's getting so much preferential treatment, and he's so ungrateful for it. Well, a lot of the mood changed. It was very contentious between Paul and Michael, and then Lauren ended up getting the phone call from Jack that Katherine had died. And that scene I thought was really significant. It was like the air got sucked out of that room in an instant. It was intense and very sad. And that's when Lauren went to go visit Jill to be there and to comfort her. And Michael just stays with Paul, and they decide to follow up on the lead about where Carmine is. What was it? I think it was Alex and Paul go to some dingy, icky hotel. Alex busts into the room, and there is written on the wall this message from Carmine that says, "You can't erase me." Wow, it's so severe. Carmine, dude, bro, man, she's just not that into you. Paul is leaving Michael a lot of leeway as usual because Michael shows up and he's right along with the investigation and he sees all of this. And by the way, Carmine left this like baiting video where he's just like, haha, you thought you got me and you didn't get me. Haha. Okay, so Neil comes back from London, and he has this new information that Anne apparently left her job in London the day that Gus got out of jail. Now, it is just, I think, too obvious that Hilary would be Anne. Hilary separately is having this moment with Kane where she reveals that her mother died. Kane's just getting the news about Katherine, and Hilary reveals that her mother died. And it seems to make sense, like, oh, well, that must be Rose. And Hilary even says, I have regrets about the way my mother died. She died alone, and she went through hell before she did. And on the surface, that just makes sense. It so obviously connects Hilary to being Anne, but then Hilary comes in to give Kane this big old hug, and over his shoulder, there's a shot of her face, and it just has this devilish look on it. She looks like she could be making all of that up. So, I don't know. I think Hilary's real intention is she wants Kane, or for whatever the payoff is, I don't know, but she wants to get Kane away from Lily. So she even, like, I don't know if it was on purpose, but she happened to leave, like, her perfume scent all over Kane when she was hugging him, because Lily got home and she was like, Kane, why do you smell like someone else's perfume? And she's not having anyone else hugging up on her man. So, so they had a little argument. Their marriage is rocky. Now, there was also, Alex ended up finding out that, I can't remember how this connected, but some phone calls were made. Whoever the stalker or blogger or whatever made some phone calls, and they were from a Newman company phone. So this is kind of connecting whoever the blogger is to Newman Enterprises. And the next thing we know, we get this scene of Hilary coming home to her hotel room or whatever, and she's kind of talking out loud to somebody, and we see it's Mason. Mason comes out from the shower, and they meet up, and they have this big kiss. I mean, first of all, finally, I'm really glad that Mason is doing something. I have no idea what is going on here. That scene made it sort of seem like Mason is the mastermind behind all of this, but Mason should have it out for the Newmans. What? Mason got fired by, like, both Victor and Adam, or especially Adam. Why would he have any kind of connection to the winners or want to get even with the winners? Like, I could maybe understand if Mason wanted to get even. Okay, this is a possibility. Again, I still think Melanie is Anne. So I wonder if Melanie and Mason somehow hooked up, realized that what they have in common is a dislike and distrust of Victor and Adam, and maybe they cooked up the whole rape charge to get back at him. I don't know what Hilary's role in this is. I just don't know. It's still a big mystery to me. I don't know. If you guys have any theories, you gotta let me know. Okay, you guys, that's really all I have time for today. I hope that this gives you a little something to sink your teeth into. So, I apologize to everyone. I've been kind of inactive on the website this week, but you guys feel free to talk amongst yourself. I don't know how much time I will have to do stuff on the website this week, or to be all up in comments or whatever. But please still don't be shy to leave me a comment. I will definitely be reading. Go to yrchat.com. Talk with everybody else there. Feel free. Use the site as much as you want. I again apologize for the shortness, but I do absolutely intend on being back next week with a full video / podcast version. So everybody,